Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to two film geeks from Wiltshire, England. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review and subscribe. Hello, podsters. Welcome to another spoiler special episode of the podcast that we're doing. And this one, you might have guessed already from the title, we are going to talk spoilerific details about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And of course, everyone needs a sorcerer supreme in their life, so I've brought with me Boaz Wong. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm. Let's go straight into Wong. Like, is it kind of still like blows your mind that Wong is the sorcerer supreme?
Yeah, I keep forgetting that, but I think they said that in No Way Home. I remember that in No Way Home, and I was like, hang on a minute. And then this one I completely forgot, and then he was like, oh, you should bow to the Sorcerer Supreme. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, yeah, he's a Sorcerer Supreme. It is a bit strange that, Earth's magical defender, like at least in role, isn't Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
That is pretty weird, but it's going to take some getting used to.
So initial thoughts on the film, Baz? What did you think?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I found it was a lot of fun. Some really, really creative action scenes and just really creative, just camera work in general from Sam Raimi. It warms my heart seeing the kind of classic Evil Dead like camera moves. Some of those, I was like, oh, that is awesome in a Marvel film. Even if you just have some of that, I'm like, definitely. Why did they do that? I'm like, yeah, watch the Evil Dead films. It's like, if it just does that, gets people watching them, I'm happy.
No, loads of references and things straight from the Evil. So again, my knowledge of Evil Dead is literally only from this podcast because we did Evil Dead 2. And there's lots of stuff from there. Like the ghosts are very much like the Deadites, and the whole Bruce Campbell and his hands going to town on him, and a lot of the stuff with eyeballs and jump scares, and it's done very much in the same vein. So I was getting constant reminders of that of Evil Dead 2, which we reviewed on this podcast.
Yeah, I did love the Bruce Campbell cameo where he's just punching himself in the face over and over. It's like, how long will that last? 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But I thought the action scenes were really great, like really creative. I love the kind of roaming camera stuff, especially when Wanda is using the Darkhold to, was it Dreamwalk or something, to capture another Wanda in a different universe. Like,
to possess her.
When she looks around, the camera hides behind the stairs, then comes back around again and gets her. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I also like the, the reveal of her in the reflection where she's like freaking out. Everything's unsteady. And as you said, like the camera is kind of like this creature that's like trying to sneak her up on her. And then you have that shot of her near the window where you see the other Wanda in the reflection. I thought that was really cool. That whole scene was pretty fantastic.
What do you make of like the concept of like the dream walking? Is that a step too far, or did it work for you?
No, I do think it worked for me because it helps with like solving a problem, obviously. So she's trying to get America Chavez, and they go to a different universe. Now she wants America Chavez because she's the only one. Only one is established that can hop in between universes. So when they go to that other universe, with that Strange that's, with the Illuminati and all that, and the Strange that sacrificed himself, you do think, well, how the fuck, why would they come to Earth, obviously, and like give her Chavez? It's probably better to stay where they are. But how on earth would Scarlet Witch come and find them? And you can't exactly say, like she would find some way to get to that universe, because then you invalidate the entire point of the story, which is that she wants Chavez because she's the only one that can jump between universes. So I kind of was fine with that when it's like, okay, it isn't our Wanda, because she still has to get there somehow. And like, you know, otherwise the film is just dead. Like, you know, where do you go from there?
She has to use the Darkhold to dream walk or whatever.
Yeah, she uses the Darkhold. But yeah, no, I quite like that. And yeah, I thought it's a very interesting concept. It hasn't been done, you know, before and you know, in the MCU before. I thought it makes sense for the plot, even though it was kind of a rushed caveat to you know, explain why this can't be a full-on solution. Because Baron Mordo, when they learn about dreamwalking, because they're like, listen, we're safe here. And Baron Mordo is like, well, not necessarily. You know, she could come here without coming here. And they're like, what do you mean? And then he explains one of the spells from the Darkhold and dreamwalking. She could do that. That's a powerful. But also to not like trivialize her mission, because you could also think, well, why doesn't she get to her kids by possessing another Wanda and then just living with them? And he says it is temporary. You can only do it for like a couple of hours or whatever. So I do think they set it up enough that it, you know, it keeps the flow of the story. You know, they seem safe here, but they're not. It also, you know, they can have a fight in another universe and stuff. And, you know, the plot is intact. Like, it does make sense. So I didn't really mind that. Plus, it does introduce something that they pay off later. I just think the whole idea was very interesting. You know, even at the end, like, Strange learns and he pilots a corpse of himself.
I love that.
That was amazing. But he's like a Chekhov gun thing, because, you know, that strange dead body lands at the beginning of the film. And he buries it, and you think, okay, that's not going to appear at any other point.
If you haven't seen the trailer.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the trailer. But, well, everything's in trailers. Don't watch a trailer for anything, all right? Just stay away from trailers, you know? Trailers are the enemy, you know?
That's my big annoyance with this film, because for me, generally, the MCU have been really good with their marketing, because they change a lot of things in the trailers. Like, I remember, like Thor Ragnarok, he has 2 eyes in the trailer, and not one when he's coming down. And, you know, in Infinity War, the Hulk is running through Wakanda with everyone else. He's just not in Wakanda. But with this, they reveal too much. I'm like, they released a trailer with like Captain Carter. I'm like, why are you showing this? What the hell?
Yeah, and even, what was it? There was the end of one trailer where it's you hear Professor X, should we tell him? And you're like, oh man, Professor X is going to be in this. It spoils a lot of stuff. So I would say, steer clear from the trailers. I think another problem with the trailers is you might expect that there's going to be, you know, more surprises than are strictly in the trailers, and that's not the case. Like, if you've seen too many of the trailers, you know the places they're going to go. You've kind of seen them, and you have seen at least, you know, where each battle is going to take place. Do you know what I mean? And you've kind of seen all the surprises, even though you might not have the context for it, because, you know, you see a corpse Doctor Strange, you know, at the end, you know, a clip of that, and I think so. So it's one of those problems where you might go, okay, all of that is revealed. Maybe there's some greater surprise in the film, and there really isn't, you know. So I would say, the trailers are kind of the enemy. I think marketing for Marvel is kind of, I would say it's actually just as bad as any other studio. And I think it is a good thing that they constantly try to like mislead and might put a scene that's not there or edit a scene. But I always do find the problem with the marketing is, you know, you do see where the last battle is going to take place. You do see like a lot of really cool shit. I think Kevin Feige even said like, he said he wasn't happy that they showed too much in the trailer. And I do have a feeling, because we were talking about this before and we'll talk about it now, but some people that are divided on this film could have come in with like ridiculous expectations, because there were ridiculous expectations, you know, people were talking about this film long before it came out, you know, and speculations what was going to happen and stuff. And I think you could get from the trailers that, oh, okay, that's just a taste of the crazy stuff that's going to occur. But like, no, like these are the only cameos, and they kind of revealed them in the trailer. If you're expecting like twice as many, like that's not going to happen, you know. So I do think that was a bit annoying. But yeah, you can't go in blind with this. If you kind of know who Doctor Strange is, it is definitely an MCU film. Because that's one thing I found interesting about Moon Knight is, like, I think Moon Knight is one of the few things that I can recall in the MCU which you could just watch without watching anything else. Like, the story is fairly self-contained. With this, you do have to watch, like, a lot of previous stuff. Like, I wouldn't say, like, a huge amount, but I would say suggestions are
Doctor Strange,
Infinity War, Doctor Strange, Infinity War, Endgame, and WandaVision. And I think this is very interesting because it's like the only movie so far where they've tied it to their Disney Plus stuff, their streaming stuff, that all the times before it was always like a film you'd had to watch in theaters, but this is a direct sequel to WandaVision. So,
It's very interesting because Sam Raimi never watched WandaVision. And I find that fascinating that the director of this film never watched WandaVision. And, I think it is very integral, but at the same time, can you watch this without watching WandaVision?
No, I kind of disagree. Okay. I think you have to watch the WandaVision, or at least have a general understanding of what happens in that show. Like, they do some kind of sum-ups, and I like try to catch you up, but I just don't feel it's really the same. So I would say it would help. I think it helps significantly if you had either watch that show or have a recap on what actually happened in that show.
I think the film definitely does work on its own, like just thematically, emotionally, with the story and all that, if you haven't watched any of it, but you certainly can't fully appreciate all these characters who haven't seen a lot of the other films. So you don't have to watch everything to watch this and fully appreciate it. But saying that, like, again, with the Illuminati cameos, like Captain Carter, played by Hayley Atwell, she was in the first two Captain America films right at the end of Endgame. So there's those ones as well. And you have to have kind of knowledge of the other characters like Black Bolt, Mr. Fantastic, Captain Marvel, and obviously Professor X. So there's a lot of other characters in there where you're like, wow. But they kind of die off very quickly. Yeah. But yeah, just going back to like Wanda and the Darkhold, I quite liked the device of the Darkhold in some ways, because they established that using the Darkhold is very taxing on yourself. Like, you have when the Illuminati like decide to execute their Doctor Strange, he had used the Darkhold, I think, or I might be wrong on that, but he's because he had been completely corrupted by the power of what he's capable of as Doctor Strange. They were like, yeah, we've got to kill him.
Yeah, it wasn't the corruption. He'd said he'd accidentally caused an incursion. So they set up for something much bigger down the line, because they kind of say, while he was dreamwalking to other universes, rather than using the time stone to work out what was happening in the future, dreamwalking to other universes, he said he had come to them and said he had fucked up and caused one universe to slam into another universe. How the fuck he did that, I have no idea, but it's obviously using the Darkhold. And then he gets executed. And then the evil Strange that he bumps into also says that he had caused, his planet, his universe had been impacted by another universe.
What, the three-eyed Strange?
Yeah, the three-eyed one. So he had also caused an incursion by using the Darkhold. And then at the very end, it kind of comes back round because, at the end credit scene, after the first set of, Charlize Theron's character, Clea, does tell him he's caused an incursion for his universe. So there's something about when a Doctor Strange uses the Darkhold, they kind of fuck up something somehow.
I guess for me, what I'm trying to say is it's using the Darkhold however you want to use it, it takes a massive mental and physical toll on you. That's what I was getting from it. Yeah. And I think it definitely plays on our Doctor Strange's like ego, his psychology a little bit in this film, to be more selfless with America Chavez, and I quite like that. And also it kind of shows how bloody powerful Scarlet Witch is that she's using it a hell of a lot yet. I feel like maybe there is a little bit of a mental toll, I'm not sure, but certainly not a physical one. But saying that as well, I think going into this, I was very surprised that Scarlet Witch Wanda was the main villain here. I was expecting when we were going to watch this film that, Doctor Strange was going to ask Scarlet Witch's help to take down whatever villain, Nightmare. I know Scott Derrickson wanted to use Nightmare before he was sacked for Sam Raimi, and they were going in a very different direction with this film. But yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all, for her to be the full-on villain. But I thought there wasn't enough like push and pull emotionally from Wanda about what she was doing was bad. Like, there's a moment where the Darkhold gets destroyed, the one in our MCU, the one in our universe, gets destroyed by one of the sorcerers in Kamar-Taj. But there's no like realization moment from Wanda that she's doing something wrong when she's released from the Darkhold, if you know what I mean. Like, well, she doesn't, she's not influenced by it anymore at this point. You know, it's very like at the same emotional level, if you know what I mean, until she goes to the copy in that dark mountain place.
Well, that's not the copy. They say that's the original. Yeah, so they just like it's transcribed in the rock. You know, it's like I'm the only one paying attention to the dialogue, man. Wong says to her that the original is in where to Gore something to Gore Mountain, Wonder Gore Mountain, and that it was carved by a demon called Chthon, and he carved it into the mountain. Yeah, so that's the original. So if you have a book, that's just a transcription. Yeah, so every book of it is a transcription of the runes that are in the in Wonder Gore. Dude, we sound like such fucking nerds. It sounds absolutely absurd but you know, if you're really into it, it's great.
Was there enough push and pull emotionally for you? I didn't see much, to be honest.
I don't think there was much. Like, there are obviously many people that are trying to convince her what she's doing is flat out insane. I think one of the problems is a lot of their conversations sound completely identical. They're not like, you know, so like Doctor Strange is like, listen, you know, your kids weren't real. And so, well, they're real somewhere. And it's like, well, you can't steal somebody's kids, and you're going to kill a little girl to do it. I mean, this is fucking evil, right? You've got to see that this is wrong. But she's not trying to see sense. She's not trying to see another view. Then when you're right, Darkhold's destroyed. I actually thought that was good, that when the book was destroyed. I think it's pretty cliche if you say, and it's kind of different because in a lot of MCU movies, it's become sort of a running trend. It is a trend in the comics as well, where you've always got to have a fight between two heroes, you know. And it's happened a lot in the MCU, you know. So in
Civil War,
well, even before that, it's happened a lot. Like, you know,
First Avengers.
Yeah, in the first Avenger, you know, what was it? Thor and Iron Man go at it. Hulk and Thor go at it. Iron Man and the Hulk in Age of Ultron. Civil War, you know, we talked about that. A lot of heroes against heroes. Even Infinity War, where the Guardians fight the Avengers and stuff. But a lot of that is usually like misunderstandings. Like they're all misunderstandings. And usually it's not usually, every other time it's, you know, they're both good. There is some terrible misunderstanding and then they team up against the real villain. There's some other real villain. And I think it's actually kind of refreshing that really wasn't the case. I think I was expecting that as well when, you know, the Darkhold, that the book is broken, that she's going to go, whoa, you know, I've gone completely off the deep end. But it's like, no, she wants to find out how to complete the spell. So I think with me, it was a realization in that moment, because some people are having theories, oh, the Darkhold influencing. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's, no, she genuinely wants to be with her kids and she doesn't give a fuck right now. And I think that's interesting, where you just have the hero is like, her arc is now, no, listen, I don't give a damn who the hell I've got to kill. I am in my right mind. I've not been tricked. I've not been brainwashed. I know exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. But I am the villain. And I just thought that's something that, you know, hasn't been done yet. And I thought that was kind of refreshing. So I do kind of understand that.
It does feel like a very, very, very long grieving process for her, I guess. The fact that combine that with immense power, with everything that's went on with WandaVision, it's just a very, obviously we've only seen this once, so I definitely want to see this again until I make my final decision on whether Wanda should have had more emotional sways, if you will.
I think she should have definitely at least been somewhat, you know, when they're trying to talk to her about it, like a little persuaded before she eventually comes to her senses at the end. It does seem like a lot of her conversations with Doctor Strange, it's like, what you're doing is crazy. And she's like, no, I'm not. You don't understand. Yeah. And then with Wong as well, it's like, clearly what you're doing is insane. No, I'm not. You don't understand. She does come about a bit one note. Yeah. Like, it would be better if she at least tries to see it their way, and then she can pull back. She can go, whatever.
Because there's that brilliant moment in Civil War, which we talked about in MCU sequels.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of push and pull on that because, yeah, exactly. Iron Man and Captain America, they're both arguing, and they both do consider the other's point of view. They're like, yeah, do you know what? maybe but then, you know, at least there's some conversation there. I think when people are talking to Wanda, they're just like, Wanda, you're nuts. And she's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, because there's a great moment in Civil War where Captain America is willing to sign the Accords with contingencies, but then, ironically enough, Iron Man is like, we've kept Wanda under surveillance in the compound, and then that's when Captain America's like, nah, I'm not signing it. You know, so I would have liked to have seen a scene like that in this film, but also I don't think like the pacing of this film allowed that. This film goes off like a rocket. It's very quick. There's not a lot of time to breathe.
It fucking starts. The first second is an action scene.
Well, yeah, that with Defender Strange and America Chavez, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But also with Gorath.
Yeah, exactly. And straight into that. I wasn't expecting there to be both of those fight scenes so close together at the beginning. I was like, man, this is really going for it. And then not only that, it was like he goes straight away to ask for Wanda's help. And Wanda establishes herself as the villain. So this is like, I think this is about like 15 minutes into the movie. So you're like, holy shit, this is really going. This is set up everything. You know, it's not fucking around. I think because a lot of people were worried about the short runtime. It is pretty short. Like it was a little less than 2 hours. I don't feel like, you know, it uses that time. It's not a complicated story. It's pretty easy to get your head around. And I would say it's quite personal because it's, you know, essentially only on 3 characters, you know, Doctor Strange, Chavez, and Scarlet Witch, and their dynamic. I would say it's quite a simple story. This is why I can sort of understand why some people might have a problem with that.
If you just get rid of the convergence stuff, because that is like sequel projection or whatever. This film, like the universe isn't at stake here. Just America Chavez is at stake.
No.
And the other Wanda.
Yeah.
That's it. Which I really love that.
Yeah, she's literally only going to kill 2 people. That's it. It's just the fact that she has to kill more sorcerers and is trying to kill all these other superheroes. It's just because they're getting in the way of a very simple goal.
Yeah.
He's going to kill Chavez, get her powers, you know, kill another Scarlet Witch, and have her children. She's not even trying to like rule the universe or whatever. She just wants to be a mother in some other dimension. That is, yeah, it's quite small scale and personal. And this is why I think, you know, this is kind of a case of like, I liked it and I liked the direction it went and I wasn't expecting that direction. And I thought it was very personal to the 2 characters. And again, I said, I do think it's really brave of doing a sort of Civil War-like thing with wizards, but not having that anybody's like tricking them or, you know, there is some big plan. There's just a disagreement over philosophy here. That said, I think some people might have come into this, you know, thinking it was going to be something different.
Well, screw those people.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. I think I do actually kind of blame Marvel for this one. Yeah. When you're talking about things like the multiverse and, oh, this is going to crack the multiverse wide open, I think people were adding too much, that this was going to be like strictly about the multiverse and the multiverse was going to be at risk. And, you know, this was some multiversal changing thing. It's really not. It's a very personal story about Scarlet Witch wanting her family back and willing to do something bad in order to do it, to kill a child. She wants to kill a child to get her children. Like, that's a bit fucked up.
Yeah, she's so like psychologically lost, I guess. I kind of would have wanted to see a bit more of that, but I kind of saw a lot of that in WandaVision anyway.
Well, this is the problem that I'm saying. I think there are 2 problems. Number one, I think some people came in this film with, don't come here in this film with too grand expectations. Yeah, this is not No Way Home. This is not Infinity War.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Don't go in with like, you know, this is essentially Doctor Strange 2. Do not lose sight of that. I would say it's a combination of, it's Doctor Strange 2 and it's probably like a second season of WandaVision. It's very much those 2 characters.
And to say this is a huge step down from No Way Home, which was the previous film, is completely unfair because No Way Home for me is a product of 3 failures. No one liked Spider-Man 3 at the time. No one liked Amazing Spider-Man 2 at the time, which is, well, I agree with that. It's not very good, but Andrew Garfield, amazing. And bringing in Spider-Man to the MCU was just a really great move. So, and then combining all these 3 Spider-Men together was a huge event film. But it's seeded through failure. Doctor Strange, in my eyes, and the other Avengers haven't failed. So I think it's just very unfair to compare those two, just because No Way Home was previous.
It's also a lot of build-up. It's a lot of build-up for the previous one. Like, again, you're trying to do right by Tom Holland, who'd been there for, 2 of his own movies and then 3 cameo appearances in other Avengers films. And so you're trying to complete his arc, and you're, again, trying to complete the arcs of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield from, films that are 20 years
of nostalgia.
As many as 20 years ago. You're trying to complete those stories, and you're bringing in all these characters. I don't think they should do that with Doctor Strange, because it's like, come on, man, this is only his second movie, And I do think he does have a good arc in this as well. So when we were talking about both Wanda and Doctor Strange, the 2 main characters, and America Chavez, all 3 of them have an arc, and I think that's good. Like, America Chavez, she's afraid of the new character that was introduced. She's afraid that she can't control her powers. It made her lose her family, and she's lost in the multiverse and stuff. So she's afraid of her powers. She can't control them. But her arc is, actually, she can control them. She needs to have confidence in herself. She can do this. With Wanda, it's, she needs to sort of move on. She needs to let go. This is unhealthy, what she's doing, It's an obsession trying to get back something which is gone. She should just remember that it was good. And again, like the other Wanda says to her at the end, just know that they'll be loved. And so I like all 3 of their arcs, and I think that's why it felt pretty good, when they come to their completion, because you're like, oh, okay, you feel, oh, wow, they've learned something, and he's learned something. And with Doctor Strange, it fixes a character flaw in him that's been present since Doctor Strange, 1, the first one. With Doctor Strange 1, he has to learn to be the hero, to stop shirking his responsibility and stop caring just about himself. And so he has an arc. With this, even though he did that, there is still another problem with him, and it's that once he's become a hero after Doctor Strange 1, he's too concerned that he needs to do everything. He can't trust anybody else to actually get the victory. He has to be the one in charge. He has to do it on his own. It has to be him. And his arc is like, he learns to trust people. It's like, listen, I can't do this. You can't do this all on your own. You're going to get everybody killed. This is beyond you. You need help. And he does learn that at the end. He learns to trust people. He learns to trust America Chavez rather than, kill her like the previous Strange did and try and do it himself.
I think what's really interesting with Doctor Strange's arc as well is this running question that, are you happy, Stephen? From Rachel McAdams' character. It's really interesting because Doctor Strange is this crazy powerful character, and as you said, like, he's the hero now, and he wants, at the beginning, he doesn't mind making all the decisions. Like, he's willing to sacrifice America Chavez at the beginning as Defender Strange to get the job done. The greater good is more important than the one. So the opposite thing of the whole Star Trek speech. But with that as well, I really like, the Illuminati in this. It's kind of similar to Civil War in the fact that with the Illuminati and the Accords, they're dealing with their own Strange, who has become crazy powerful, and he killed Thanos on his own and become ridiculously powerful and created the convergence. So they were like, we have to kill this guy. There's no other option. So this film definitely explores this concept of what do we do with characters that are crazy powerful. And I think that's kind of lifted from Hulk, the Incredible Hulk comics, where they banished the Hulk or something, the Illuminati. So I really like that. But it's just this whole thing of just like, Doctor Strange is crazy powerful, but are you happy, Stephen? Doctor Strange, are you actually happy? And it's kind of discovering that as well with Rachel McAdams' character. Christine, that's the one. So I really like that. Maybe it could have been explored a little bit more, a bit deeper, but the other side of that, of kind of letting go of responsibility to other people, giving confidence, responsibility to Chavez was a great idea too. I did enjoy the fact that we saw a lot more Christine in this. Yes, different ones. Like, she's a brilliant scientist with the Illuminati, and she has a little bit more action with like the fire vase. Was fun.
Yeah.
But let's talk Illuminati. Did you like that scene? Was it too fan service-y for you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. I definitely like their inclusion, and it was fan service, obviously.
But I felt their inclusion was justified with this story.
Yeah, I think it was justified. Yeah,
because Doctor Strange could become crazy powerful, like their Doctor Strange.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it was pretty good actually that they showed up, and it's also like if you're traveling around the multiverse, and that universe has its own Avengers, it's pretty cool to see just like how things are slightly different. Do you know what I mean? That you get like these different roster of characters. And it is cool. It's good nostalgic fun. It's great to see Patrick Stewart reprise his role. But then it's like I also it's funny because it's like they are quite important. They're quite important with the setup. It's great fan service, and then they kind of just die very quickly. Yeah. So they're killed off, and I think it was one of those things. Like I'm not sure how I feel about that.
All right. After one viewing.
Yeah. So after one viewing, I feel two ways. So one way is kind of the sort of disappointed of, well, shit. That was kind of a waste of them. You've got all these guys back or whatever to reprise their roles or to actually portray these characters, and then they're just gone.
It services Wanda's story that she is crazy powerful, that she can take out all these really powerful characters.
Yeah, and I definitely think it services it services Wanda's story. It was a hell of a surprise. It does also show like because you do get this problem of like sort of plot armor where you're like this powerful character comes out and like all the heroes sort of make it through. And I think if you're gonna have her tear through a bunch of heroes, just have it be cameo heroes. Might as well. They're not going to show up again. So, and, it was a cool sequence. And it was brutal. Fuck me, it was brutal.
I did feel like a lot of the deaths were a bit dumb, though. Like, my first thought when Mr. Fantastic dies was, oh, that's a cheese string. He's a cheese string, which he used to have when my friends... Because I don't like cheese, really. I'm not a huge cheese eater, but a lot of my friends had...
Oh, man. You're dead to me. You are dead to me.
Cheese strings, where you just pull the top out and you get a nice long string of cheese.
I used to eat so much cheese string.
But that's how he died. He died like a cheese string.
Yeah, actually, that was kind of my least favourite death. So I really liked how Sharon Carter died, got sliced in half. I was like, whoa, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was gnarly. I was like, whoa. I did not thought they would do that. I thought she was going to die, but I'm like, sliced in half? Whoa.
Yeah, you're like, holy crap, Wanda, you're crazy. You're like, that was great, because that definitely, dropped my jaw. And also another death that really put my jaw to the floor was Black Bolt.
That was cool.
That was incredible. She gets rid of his mouth, and because his voice is a deadly weapon, and he screams in, like, panic and blows his own fucking head.
Yeah.
Like his and it was grim as well. That is definitely the most graphic death in any MCU property, with the exception of probably the Netflix stuff.
I love the setup for that, where Mr. Fantastic is like, careful, Wanda. Black Bolt has, incredible powers by just talking or whatever.
Yeah,
by using his mouth.
Yeah, that was it. He goes, he can kill you with just one word from his mouth, and she's like, what mouth? Yeah. Just like how it goes from his eyes to like his mouth and it's gone.
Yeah, I love that. Very horror.
That was really good. Yeah. So, but my least favorite death was Mr. Fantastic, because I have a theory on why he died that quick, and that's
because he can only stretch. That's it.
No, I disagree with that. Mr. Fantastic is a badass. I completely disagree. I think he could have definitely put up a much better fight.
Because all he does is just stretch his hand towards her. That's it.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Like, one, he's got insane amounts of technology. Plus, even if he's just stretching, he's fucking better than Captain Carter, who can just throw a frisbee. Why didn't she get like eviscerated with one look? Why is he also stretching so slowly? He could like punched her at like the speed of sound or something. So I think he probably died. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have died. I'm just like, at least get a couple of licks in and then die. Yeah. And it just felt like you never really got to see him do anything, But I have a feeling probably why that occurred, and that's to do with, like, I think there was a huge fan thing to get John Krasinski to play Mr. Fantastic. But I have a feeling that they probably added him in a lot later and, filmed the rest of his stuff just to make sure he's there, for the fans. And I don't think they really had him in mind when it came to that fight. That's my theory.
I think this is like the first time that like Marvel have listened to the fans in terms of casting. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like the fans have like casted this character. That's weird.
Yeah, I know.
That is weird to me.
Yeah, it is crazy that they've just got guys that look through social media and it's like, well, shit, okay, John Krasinski it is, give him a call. It felt to me, more than the other Illuminati members, it did feel like he was the most tagged in, tagged on.
Definitely.
And then I think his death kind of reflects that. I think he was probably a last minute addition. I would have loved to see him actually fight.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck me, we haven't seen Mr. Fantastic do anything since Fan Four Stick in whenever the hell that was, 2015. 15? Yeah. So, it's been some time.
Which is dreadful.
Yeah, it was dreadful. And also, it's just we haven't seen him do anything. It would have been nice if you're going to reintroduce him. Yeah. Just let him get a couple of punches in.
I feel like they're saving him for his own film and probably still trying to work out in pre-production and writing, like, how is this guy going to move? For our version of the Fantastic Four. I didn't mind that so much. I think my least favorite death was Captain Marvel, where...
Oh, yeah, she's crushed by a statue.
And she just puts her hands up to defend her. I'm like, a blast bolt? What are you doing? She just puts her hands up and lets the rock fall on her. I thought that was super dumb.
Actually, do you know how that could have been done better and probably more grim? Instead, she lasers it, and a piece of it, like maybe the head, like blasts off and lands on her head. And it's just, she's not crushed under rubble, just her head is pancaked.
Maybe they were like, they had to have like a stupid death in there. Like they weren't allowed to have another like horror-esque death in there. That's too many. Disney are coming in like, no, you can't have that one. Only 2 or whatever. And,
what was it? Professor X getting fucking, the ringed, like appearing out like some horrible ghost creature that snaps his neck.
Yeah, but I didn't like the scene where it's all kind of, all white in her head. Professor X goes in her head and tries to pull out their Wanda from this black cave and is like, perhaps if I pull you out, you'll be okay. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it does sound really clunky.
It didn't work for me, that scene, I have to say. It was very bad.
Yeah, it sounded really, really clunky. It could have been possible they added him at the last minute, I'm not sure. Yeah. He didn't really have to say much, really. It's kind of Captain Obvious. He's like explaining what he's doing. It's a bit weird. I have a feeling you could maybe give that leeway and say, like, maybe because he's in her mind, he's vocalizing everything he's thinking because
maybe
they're sharing thoughts. Maybe he's just vocalizing the obvious, Although I did like him getting his neck broken. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah.
I did like the little Danny Elfman score where he comes into the lineup of the Illuminati in the classic yellow wheelchair thing from the 90s show. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
I guess one last question to explore is this a horror film?
I think it's got horror elements.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Too many people are like going a bit overboard and saying it's the MCU's first horror movie.
It's not.
Like, is it really? Like it has horror elements.
Yeah.
I would say like, action film with horror elements, or I wouldn't go flat out with horror. But there are like some great scenes which are like very horror-esque when they're being chased in the tunnels by her. Yeah. That was very horror-esque. Especially like she's got like a busted leg. She's fucking hobbling around.
Yeah. And literally half her face is covered in blood as well.
Yeah, her face is covered in blood. And like she's hobbling around. Her eyes are red and just glowing. And like, there's so much shadow on her. And she's like, she's like a fucking creature, And that she does that sort of jump scare where they're like, is she going to break? Because she keeps breaking through the doors. And then the last door, she just kind of essentially just appears in front of them. I thought that was pretty cool. Also, another scene in like Camotage where she's like, so I thought it was kind of corny when she's going out of the reflections and dragging people. That looked a bit corny. I think the scene was cool. And coming out of the reflections, I definitely like, so what was it? I kind of wish that, again, it was sort of darker and maybe bloodier. Like, she pulled them into the reflections and like their whole blood spurted out of the reflections or some shit. But I can get why they're, I'd say the most horrific thing was the Black Bolt thing, So I kind of get why they don't want to just make every scene as fucked up as possible. But that idea was amazing. Yeah. And then also when she comes out of that gong, and because sometimes she just is a creature.
That was a great jump scare where her hand just comes out suddenly. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, and that was done in like several stages. Like one, she's obviously coming through the reflections. Oh God, she's coming through the reflections. Cover every reflection. Then they're covering every reflection, and then there's just one little puddle, and you see her eye, and Chavez is like, "What the fuck?" And then she like freaks out and like rubs that away, then falls back next to the gong, and then the bang, an arm just comes straight out of the gong. And then I like also how she crawled her way through, where like basically she's all
contorts her body.
Yeah, she's all twisted and turned around, and it just reminds me of in the first It movie with Bill Skarsgård, where he does that and he kind of refixes all of his limbs. So I do like the bits where because she looks like she's a pretty woman with this awesome costume. She's used to be a superhero, but then sometimes she is just straight up looking like a demon, doing kind of weird.
I love that
weird shit where you're like, oh my god.
That was definitely the one scene where she's contorting her body. I'm like, wow, I can't believe they're actually leaving this in. At the end of the day, this is a Disney film, a Disney Marvel film. I'm like,
that was pretty freaky. I would say the first big one where I was like, I cannot believe they just put that in, was his fight with that giant squid monster. And
Gorath.
Yeah, Gorath. It was pretty by the books. You're like, okay, he's having a big superhero fight. Also at parts, it kind of reminded me of Spider-Man 2, and like, because they're going on top of the buildings and on the building. It just reminded me of ironically, when Spider-Man was fighting Dr. Octopus on buildings and shit.
Yeah.
But this time it's Doctor Strange actually fighting an actual octopus.
I've really just clicked on that now.
Yeah.
Oh well.
And then out of nowhere, and I wasn't expecting, like he uses like these hands to pick up a lamppost because he's being like killed and stuff, and he throws it at the monster. And I was just thinking, okay, it's going to go through its eye, and then it's going to die. And I thought, again, the fight was pretty cool, but it's pretty by the books, and it's very superhero-y. But when it goes through the eye, and then it pulls out its eye, the whole eye falls out of this goddamn thing's head and lands on the street.
With a great comic sound effect.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, holy shit.
That was awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe you did that. My God.
So, certainly with audience reactions, it probably will put off a lot of people with a lot of the horror stuff. Certainly younger kids, probably. But for us, I eat that shit up. I love that. Yeah, and even like Zombie Strange at the end, that was really cool. The acting from Benedict Cumberbatch there, all these really sharp movements to look like a zombie. I guess I would have wanted a bit more like Cloak of Levitation comedy in there, bit more uses of the cloak, because it did feel odd that they made the decision to like blow a hole through the cloak and have that weird blue patch on. Like, we're not basically saying we're not really using the cloak in this film. But I did love the bit where he's knocked out and the cloak is literally trying to slap him awake.
Yeah, that was funny.
That made me laugh out loud. But I love the cloak comedy. I wanted a bit more of that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's essentially like his sidekick.
Yeah.
I really like the shot where after Defender Strange dies and he's tumbling down through the portal and the camera's doing this, and then it goes to him in bed. With the room is spinning in the same way, and then I thought that was amazing. Another scene that I quite liked is when after the copy of the Darkhold is destroyed, and she had only just after that whole scene of where her spirit is chasing the other Wanda, and she possesses the other Wanda, and then the book is destroyed, and I love the bit where she's kind of phasing in and out, where she's like getting up, and it goes from, it's essentially the same scene, but like her just phasing in from that reality to her one.
Yeah.
I quite like that, where it's like, she's on the floor in that reality, and then she's on the floor at,
that was good.
And then she's on her knees trying to grab the kids. It's like, Billy, Tommy, and then they're gone. I like that. I thought that was a really cool scene.
It's really fast cut in there, I thought. I was like, that's really fucking fast.
Yeah, it was really well cut. And you think she was overlaid like perfectly. So, I mean, how they had to film that, like she had to be spot on with her movements, like recreate them exactly.
So, post-credit scenes then, who is Charlize Theron's character? She seems to use a knife to cut realities to come into our one. Who is Charlize Theron?
Okay, so Charlize Theron, if anybody remember, you obviously remember Doctor Strange, the first one?
Yeah, Dormammu.
And the villain was Dormammu, who doesn't like to bargain, but bargains anyway.
Who was actually played by Benedict Cumberbatch as well.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. He had to, like, I don't know, go to the gym and become as large as a planet or something. I don't know. So anyway, so Dormammu, ruler of the Dark Dimension, that's his sister's daughter.
Okay.
So that's his niece.
All right.
Clea is his niece. And she's not only his niece, but she's the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. So she has the same title, but in the Dark Dimension. In the comics, like, after the whole Christine thing, she's kind of his love interest for, like, a long, long time in the books.
Okay.
So they are romantically involved. So yeah, that's kind of, and I get what you're probably thinking is, how does somebody that big have a niece that small?
Yeah.
But
who's his sister then?
Oh my god, I'm going to be terrible with these fucking names. But his sister Umar.
Okay.
The Dark Dimension in the comics, it kind of keeps changing rule. It goes between Dormammu or his sister, and they don't like each other, and they're twins. And, they keep trying to take the Dark Dimension from each other. Yeah, so comic books are obviously very weird, because Dormammu isn't really... Like, he can change size, but usually he has, like, a flaming skull. His sister just kind of looks like a regular woman.
Okay.
just dressed in purple. They are beings called Faltine, and they're from basically like a sort of paradise-like dimension, kind of like heaven. And then I think they were exiled from there and then went to the Dark Dimension and then took it over. So they're not native.
So crazy dimensional stuff.
Dimensional hopping, dimensional conquering, all that weird shit.
All right. So what do you reckon will happen with Doctor Strange in the future?
From basically what's shown, I think, they might develop on that whole incursion thing.
Yeah.
So I was actually surprised that they mentioned the incursions. It's one of those things. It's not completely pertinent to this plot. It does set up something. Yeah. That obviously Doctor Strange is dangerous. But, well, it is kind of pertinent because it helps him learn to trust Chavez. Because it's like, listen, the other Doctor Strange. Well, two of the Doctor Strangers that he meets. Well, one he doesn't meet. The one from that universe, the Illuminati Doctor Strange, and then the evil one that he meets. I wish they actually kind of had him talk to the evil one a lot more.
I love that scene though, where it's all kind of, that's the one scene where the pace kind of slows down and you get a chance to actually feel some atmosphere going up those steps and seeing all this very dark sanctorum.
I also like their conversation because you learn something about the character and like the beginning of, because again, throughout this you've got the problem with Doctor Strange. He can't let anybody, he's always got to make the final say. And he has to decide. And he meets this other Doctor Strange who has the same faults that he does. And I like where he's like, prove that you're from another universe. And he goes, you had a sister and you were playing with her out on the ice and she fell in and she died. And
you couldn't save her.
You couldn't save her, yeah. So it's kind of that sort of survivor's guilt of like, man, I could have done something.
But their fight, though, was one of the best scenes I found.
Yeah.
Really bold as well. I was like, Jesus, like, are these all magical instruments? They're basically battling with music, but obviously very visual with literal notes with CGI. It was like, wow, that's insane.
Basically using, musical notes as like ninja throwing stars and, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, they could have done it like with lasers or whatever. Yeah. But I'm glad they did it. They did something that nobody's seen before. That was pretty cool. I also liked how like they were evenly matched on their music magic, and then he kind of uses like sort of like, I don't know, some sort of telekinesis or something to just make the harp make a little noise, and then that note he plucks from the harp and then adds it to his bowl. That was one thing I didn't like, is the fact that evil Doctor Strange died. I was like, oh, come on, man. Come on. They should have kept him alive. Maybe he is alive. His third eye did open.
Well, it's passed over kind of thing to Out One, isn't it? Because he's got the third eye now.
But, I kind of wish he sort of remained alive. Because, I don't know, because then you've got a direct setup. You've got something that's left from this film that you can carry over. Could be like, he's got to fight an evil Doctor Strange. That would be an interesting thing.
I feel like the convergence is definitely leading into the Kang storyline, possibly, with the whole multiverse thing. Because people forget that actually Loki and Sylvie started the multiverse shenanigans.
I think how Kevin Feige sort of explained it is... and, I suppose Kang at the end is like all of the, like he tends to can prune universes, get rid of other timelines and stuff. But he has like how would you explain it? Like a tight mesh of universes.
Yeah.
But at the end, when Sylvie kills him, it kind of goes a bit crazy, and universes are veering all over the fucking place. So I think it's kind of, you know, enabled you to travel from universe to universe
without Chavez.
Yeah, it's not very well explained. It could be that actually Chavez, they should retcon it that like without that maybe Chavez couldn't dimensional hop. You know. Because that would be interesting to sort of move the plot closer to that.
I definitely still feel like we're going to get a young Avengers as well, like with Chavez, Elena, Hailey Steinfeld's character, Kate Bishop, and people like that. Yeah. I think young Avengers is coming as well, possibly.
Yeah. You could also use some other version of Wanda's kids. You know, they're very much featured in this film. Because in the show, they had powers.
Because I think Ironheart is supposed to be quite a young character as well. So
yeah.
Which is coming, and I think we might see her in Wakanda Forever. Apparently, it's rumored.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, I think we'll leave it there. It's been fun talking to you again, Boaz, about all things Marvel and Doctor Strange. I think the next spoiler special will hopefully be on Top Gun Maverick, because I'm a big Top Gun nerd, I guess. Well, certainly an aeroplane nerd. And Boaz is very fresh to Top Gun, so that'll be kind of a really interesting switch there.
Yeah, exactly. Out from my where I'm comfortable to where you're comfortable.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Boaz.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss related to upcoming releases, let us know on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. Remember, please subscribe. Pod signing off.